I'm Jason Howell, and I'm here in San Jose, where Samsung just wrapped up its latest Unpacked event with the new Galaxy S25 series. A few surprises there. And while the flagship S25 Ultra is pretty nice, I'm usually a big fan of the Ultra, waiting for the S26 Ultra might not be a bad idea either. I'm going to tell you all about that, but before I get to why that is, let's see what Samsung has on offer with the S25 Ultra.
Starting with the design, the S25 Ultra has a flat frame, but you've got some curved corners and rounding up on the edges, also kind of a slight curve where it meets the glass. It's really nice. And a polished titanium framing, so that's going to keep it really protected from any big spills, hopefully anyways. 15% thinner than the S24 Ultra, which is notable. Also 15 grams lighter. And yes, you have the S Pen, of course. The Ultra series wouldn't be the Ultra series anymore without that. As for the display, it has a flat 6.8-inch AMOLED display, QHD plus resolution, and 1 to 120 hertz adaptive refresh. Actually, all the phones have that this time around. Up at the top, yes, you've got your hole punch camera peeking through there, and then it's protected by Corning's Gorilla Armor 2, and this is a new inclusion, 29% more resistant to fracture when compared to the S24 Ultra. That's a big upgrade. Talking internals, we've got the Snapdragon 8 Elite mobile platform for Galaxy, which is a little bit of a mouthful. All of the S25s have that this time around. This is a custom application processor, which is a first for Samsung working with Qualcomm in this way. Highly optimized specifically for this device. 12 gigs starting for RAM, up to 16 gigs if you want to upgrade, and then storage options 256, 512 gig, or 1 terabyte for storage. And finally, if you like to push the phone to its limits, you'll be happy to find an enlarged vapor chamber inside. That's 40% bigger than the S24 Ultra, so high intensity gaming, high intensity processing through apps and stuff like that. You're not going to have a heating device as a result. All right, then there's software, which arguably is probably one of the things that Samsung is emphasizing most here. It's running One UI 7 based on Android 15, and it has a few notable features. Now Brief, which has a morning, kind of a midday, and an evening briefing that collects a bunch of information on how you're using your phone or your calendar, details, all of this stuff, and collects it into a single kind of briefing depending on the time of day to make it useful for you at a glance. There's the new Now bar for notifications and controls that appears down at the bottom of the lock screen. I really like how that's presented. But really, at the end of the day, artificial intelligence, once again, stealing the show here. Personal Data Engine. This is something new that they've announced that organizes all the data about you, your interaction with the device for mapping AI context to it. So making things far more personal, as the name suggests. And agents. Samsung's really big on agents this time around. Cross-app multi-step actions that use the side button to summon that. A circle to search for things like identifying contact information and allowing you to call or email straight from that image that you take, or identifying music that's found inside of videos that you're watching. And then, of course, 7 years of operating system and security updates, which is pretty standard at this point, but welcome. As far as cameras are concerned, not a whole lot of upgrades here, except for one major lens gets an update on the Ultra, and that's a new 50 megapixel ultra wide camera. This is an upgrade from a 12 megapixel camera in the S24 Ultra. So with this, you're going to get improved macro output, right? You're also going to get improved wide angle with high quality output from that. The remaining cameras are pretty much the same from the S24 Ultra, 200 megapixel wide, 50 megapixel telephoto, but you get some other software features as well that are actually really neat. Audio eraser for video, which allows you to kind of mix different elements inside of a noisy piece of audio and, maybe remove the audience or remove the music from it.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and talk while the music is playing. There's some background audio, and we'll
see what we come up with audio eraser.
10-bit HDR video for 4 times wider dynamic range. Galaxy Log with LUT availability. That's going to make videographers pretty happy. And virtual aperture settings, which I actually played around with and was pretty impressed with. It's more like a fully manual portrait mode on the camera. Battery-wise, it's not much of an upgrade at all. In fact, it's the same. 5,000 milliamp hour battery, same as I think we've had since the S20 Ultra, so that's staying rigid, although Samsung did note that they've made a lot of updates to the software and the hardware to optimize so you still get more battery life even though it's the same capacity, and 45-watt fast wired charging. As for the price, no change there, which is kind of welcome. It's still $1,299.99 or $1,300, which is the same as the S24 Ultra last year. 7 total color options, which sounds like a lot, but I would say in person they all seemed pretty muted, so I was a little disappointed by that. Pre-orders available now, and you can find this in stores starting February 7th.
Okay, so those are the facts about the S25 Ultra, and it's all impressive as the Ultra series usually is, but here's why I think you might actually want to wait for the S26 next year. All right, number 1, the camera. Now, the S25 Ultra gets that upgraded ultra-wide, and that's nice, no doubt about it, but telephoto is more meaningful, at least to me. For my use case, I definitely find more reasons to use the telephoto than I do the ultra-wide on a daily basis. And there are rumors suggesting a big upgrade possible for the S26 Ultra, a currently unannounced 200 megapixel periscope telephoto with 1 to 1.5 inch sensor. And what does that all mean? Improved optical zoom performance, full stop. Superior digital zoom crops off of that 200 megapixel image. As someone who relies on the optical zoom lens, this is actually really exciting. All right, number 2 is battery technology. And the S25 Ultra all the way back to the S20 Ultra have stuck with that 5,000 milliamp hour battery capacity. Now, increased capacity usually means a bulkier device, right? A bulkier battery. Well, the OnePlus 13 and the Honor Magic 7 are bucking that trend with a new technology called silicon carbon battery tech. And this sees increased capacity by 13%, utilizing the same amount of size and space as a lithium-ion battery. And some credible sources are saying that Samsung might actually adopt silicon carbon battery tech in the S26 Ultra, which would be a pretty big deal. But I think there remains a question tied to that, which is, if they did that, would the size of the phone stay the same, or the size of the battery stay the same, but adding more capacity? Or would they slim down everything and bring the capacity to the same of what we're used to? Either way, battery advancement and technology does not come along very often. And so when it does, it's a really big deal, and it impacts everyone. So this could be huge. All right, number 3 is display. And Samsung displays have always looked phenomenal. They just regularly do, especially on the flagships, and the S25 Ultra is no different. But Samsung might actually change it up on the S26 Ultra with something called, and it's a mouthful, Color Filter on Thin Film Encapsulation, or COE for short. This replaces traditional polarizing layers in OLED screens with color filters and black layers to define pixels. What does that mean? Well, it results in thinner, brighter, more power efficient display layers. And Samsung already actually has this technology in use. They started in the Z Fold line, starting with the Z Fold 3. So we've got like 3 or 4 generations at this point already using that technology. Rumors say this could hit the S26 Ultra. And if that happened, would it slim down that device even further? It would certainly make battery more efficiently. A lot of gains because of that upgrade if it happens. And finally, security. And this is a little bit of a stretch, so hear me out on this one. But Facial ID has long relied on the front-facing camera when it comes to Samsung smartphones, which is less secure than Apple's Face ID, which uses infrared, dot projection, and 3D mapping. A somewhat dated leak suggested something called PolarID might actually hit the S25 Ultra. Now, this just came out, it didn't happen, right? Well, a later leak punted that to the S26 Ultra. And this would be a polarized facial ID system, actually leveraging Snapdragon processing and then hardware integrated into the front display design. And this would really elevate face scan tech on the S26 Ultra if it happened. And I think that's a big if, but you just never know. Potentially, it could rival Face ID, and if that's the case, that would be a really big deal and a great reason to wait. All right, look, the S25 Ultra is a beast, and it usually is, there's no doubt about that, but it's also pretty pricey, and in some ways, pretty incremental. Waiting might just actually be the ticket this time around, which has me wondering what you think. Are you planning to upgrade? Are you not? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Let's start a conversation around this. And also, while you're at it, make sure and check out my OnePlus 13 review, where I talk a little bit more about silicon carbon technology and why it's so cool. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.